to go back to that conversation, like we were on total opposite ends.
We were like a money anxiety that I have is different or non-existent for you.
Yeah.
And so how do we as a couple address the anxiety I have, which is this over the same exact situation? Isn't that insane? Like I have anxieties around the same exact situation as you, but you have a different feeling from it. Welcome to Money Dates, the podcast that makes money conversations with your partner feel a little less taboo. I'm Natalie Slagle, a certified financial planner, and I'm joined by my husband and business partner, Dan Slagle, also a certified financial planner. Say hi, Dan.
Hello.
In each episode, we'll share honest stories and practical tips to help you and your partner feel more connected and confident on your financial journey. So grab your drink, get comfortable, and join us for our Money Dates.
Hey,
hi,
Natalie.
Dan. Hi.
Hey. Happy Friday. At the time of recording, This is Friday. It is Friday afternoon. It is beautiful. It is sunny out. I feel like when you listen to podcasts or if you've been on a podcast, there's always some nice pleasantries at the beginning of an episode.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, like, you and I spend most of our day together. Do we need to have these like pleasantries?
Yes, because we usually never do. And so I would like, Dan, well, usually a pleasantry is weather. I know what weather you're having because I'm 20 feet away from you. But tell me, like, what's something you're looking forward to this weekend?
Oh, this weekend. I am currently training for a marathon in the fall. So that consumes most of my week and also my weekend. So I have
at least your free time.
My free time, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, never during
You're not running all day.
Absolutely not. Well, yeah, I'm not running all day. So I will be training for my marathon with my long run. And those, like, I usually try to do that on Saturday if I can. I really enjoy doing it earlier in the morning because not many people are out. I can like run on the street, not have to worry about what could possibly happen if it was a little busier out. And I love doing it at the start of the day because then I can come home, relax, as much as having a 1-year-old allows you to relax, who just started crawling and moving around, right? But my favorite part about it is I feel like I can eat whatever the heck I want after training.
Yes, that is really nice. I mean, I kind of feel like I get to benefit with that as well. So we have some good eating plans this weekend.
Yes, alongside we do. What are you looking forward to?
I might go in a 2-seater plane with a friend this weekend. So I've never done that. And that sounds really fun. And I'm kind of scared. And it will be, she was talking to me about like the different routes we can do. And she's like, we could do a really short route in case you need to like get off the plane. And I was like, no. Like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Like, I want to go, either like go to the ocean and back, or I don't know. We're still kind of mapping it out, but hopefully
get out of the plane as in like, she's going to land the plane and you're going to get out at that time.
Right.
Like
yeah.
You're going to freak out and like jump out of the plane, like go skydiving.
No. Although having a parachute would make me feel a little better.
I'm sure though those planes have to be equipped with parachutes. Like,
I don't know.
Or like in the movies, like the ejector seats, you like press the big red button and then you go flying into the air.
Exactly. So
anyways, let's, very good. These were nice pleasantries. I enjoyed that. Let's get to some subject matter for the day. And I think the topic that we want to talk about today is like, how do we handle one partner in a relationship who may be more financially anxious than the other?
If you're listening to this, and maybe you've listened to a couple episodes at this point, can you just think in your head between Dan and Natalie? One is more anxious about money than the other. Who would you assume? You're shaking your head, Dan? Why are you shaking your head already at me?
I don't know. I don't have a good answer on why I'm shaking. Just I would be curious to what the listeners or who they think is a little more financially anxious.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and one thing that we keep forgetting to mention is like, apparently you can like put reviews on this podcast or comments. So like comment like, okay, when this question was asked, I thought it was going to be Dan or I thought it was going to be Natalie, but we're going to kind of share our results. And then, you know, I would be really curious, people listening to this, if they think them and their partner are the same or different.
Yeah.
Because I would say we're different, but we're going to find out because you made me take this little test, which
I did. We'll get to that here. We don't spill all the beans quite yet.
Sorry, I'm excited.
Well, I know you are. We'll get to that here in a little bit. I think like going back to just the overall topic in general, one of the biggest pieces of advice that I could give, at least that's helped us, right? Like every partnership's going to have what works best for them at the end of the day. I think something that's helped us is acknowledgement of different money mindsets within the relationship and identifying where certain like tendencies or beliefs, behaviors, like where they come from. I think that is always for us at least, that has been a really important conversation that we've had that instills like some light into maybe how your partner views money whenever you bring it up. Right? Like maybe there's some trauma. There could be some trauma there.
Yeah.
There could be past experiences that have just like shaped how they interact with money, whether it's avoidance. What are some other like behaviors that you see?
There's avoidance. I mean, avoidance could even be avoidance of talking about it. A lot of people just avoid the topic, spending too much, spending too little, and just having unrealistic ideas around money. And that can mean you don't think you have enough and you really do, or you think you have plenty and you really don't. So all the things.
Yeah. Spending too much, maybe being a little like frugality is something that comes up. There's some better technical terms for those two categories. You want to know what they are?
Yes.
Well, someone who spends maybe too much can also be known as a spendthrift.
That's right.
And someone who is maybe reluctant to spend as much, they're called a tightwad.
That also makes sense.
Yeah. I feel like the spendthrift is like if I was labeled a spendthrift, I'd be like, oh, that's me. If I was labeled a tightwad, I'd be like, what the heck?
I know. I feel like that has a lot of different meanings and it doesn't even have to deal with money. So that one, ugh.
We should give some background too. Like those aren't just two terms that you and I came up with.
Right.
Like I didn't come up with those two terms on the fly here. There's been some study research done. We'll link to a assessment in our show notes, which is basically looking at, are you a spendthrift or a tightwad based on a scale and how you answer certain questions. The University of Michigan put this scale together to see where you may land on this scale. And I think it's really important because the scale, not only to understand your results, like where you fit in on that overall scale, but where your partner does as well. And I think it's a really good exercise to go through and better understand where each of you are and what are some pros and cons that come with being on either end of the scale, or if you're in the middle of the scale, which maybe one of us are. We'll get to that here in a little bit.
I feel like the topic we wanted to talk about is when one spouse maybe feels more anxious than the other. And so we wanted to take an assessment to maybe see who's more anxious about something. So I'm trying to like tie this in because I think you can have an anxiety around money regardless of which, if you're a spendthrift, a tightwad, or somewhere in between, but the anxieties stem from something different. So that's my thought with that.
Yeah. And going back to the assessment, and we're going to reveal some results here in a few minutes. Going back to the assessment done by the University of Michigan, it's based on how participants from the New York Times have landed on the scale. A spendthrift, by their definition, is the idea of some people have trouble limiting their spending. right? Like they often spend money, for example, on clothes, meals, vacations, when they actually would be better off not doing those things. So
from a financial perspective, maybe not from a
financial perspective,
maybe not from a life, because spending money on all those things sound quite nice.
It does sound nice. Spending money on a vacation sounds pretty nice. I feel like I'm overdue for one. On the other end, a tightwad is the idea like other people have trouble spending money. So verbatim what it says, perhaps because spending money makes them anxious. They don't spend money on things that they should spend it on, meaning they have the resources to spend money on certain things and they choose not to. Like there's a barrier there. There's some sort of block from preventing them on spending their money on a particular item or experience.
Right, exactly. And I like that. I like how it's phrased, like on things you should spend money on, because we're inundated with ads and recommendations from people on like, oh, go buy this. And everything kind of feels like a want. Yeah. But I mean, we have a handful of clients that we kind of have to like, really like, I'm pretending like I'm shaking them. Like, you have so much money and there are things you want to do and you're not doing it, and you have the resources to do it. Like, you should go spend this money. You should go book that trip and have this experience, or maybe it is buy whatever. You know, I think it's just a little bit easier to attribute like a good spend is on an experience, but sometimes like, you know, what you were saying, you should go spend your money on this nice thing or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Well, I want to go to our results of this assessment. And again, it'll be in the show notes. You can take the assessment, take it along with your partner. Highly recommend it. The scale goes 4 to 26, I believe. Yeah, 4 to 26.
Okay.
Depending on how you answer the questions. I have shared my results with you. In response to me sharing my results, you said, I'm not going to share my results with you until we are recording the podcast.
It makes it more fun.
So it does. Like, I totally wish I would have gone back and not done that. So who should go first and share their results?
Let's have you, because I'm already looking at it.
Okay, that sounds good.
But I want to hear you talk about it.
Well, so how the assessment works, a scale of 4 to 26, 4 through 11 categorizes you as a tightwad. 12 through 18 categorizes you as an unconflicted consumer.
That sounds nice.
It does. It sounds, it does sound really nice. And 19 through 26 is spendthrift.
Okay. So that's, so the higher the number, the more you like to spend. The lower the number, the more you don't like to spend. Okay. I'm following.
Yeah. Essentially, it's categorizing you as in one of those 3 categories. So where I fell on the assessment was a number 12. So technically speaking, I am an unconflicted consumer. I'm on the low end of the scale, as low as you can go, because again, tightwad stops at 11, unconflicted consumer starts at 12. And I thought about this, and I think it's pretty accurate. The reason why I would say that is, and you know me, anytime we go shopping, I might grab like 1 or 2 things. And then my usual end result is, no, I don't need it. I don't need it.
It's so
Which
true.
is why I bring you to come shopping with me, because you may encourage me to get it. Whatever it may be, piece of clothing, new shoes, whatever it may be. I thought that, and it's interesting, based on and I don't even know your results yet, which I'm really curious. Based on like the dynamic of our relationship, I thought I would score within the 19 to 26. Like, I thought I would be more of a spendthrift. But actually going through it, it does make sense that I kind of fit in the middle. I'm neutral. I'm Switzerland in this game.
I also thought you would be more on the spendthrift side. But I didn't read into the data and the results as much as you did before. I thought you were either going to be one or the other. I didn't know there was this middle ground. Now that I know that there's this middle ground, and I don't know if we've talked about like what's the desired place to be, but the middle ground does sound like you kind of get the best of both I don't know. So I'm like,
yeah,
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Well, I shared where I'm at. But...
Yeah, I want to share my results before we like kind of dive into how it impacts us as a household. So can you guess, Dan, what side I was on?
I'm going to put you in the tightwad camp.
You are correct.
And I'm going to go with that. You scored an 8.
Okay, great. Man, you know me. You know me. So to be fully transparent, I took the test when you first sent it to me, and then I exited out of the test. So then I had to redo it again. So the first time I took the test, I got an 8. The second time I took the test, I got a 9. So I'm like somewhere between an 8 and a 9.
8.5. Yeah.
8.5. And what's the scale go to? I could be all the way up into an 11 and still be in the tightwad. And I am more anxious about our household finances than you are. Do you believe it's because I'm also more anxious about spending money?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I feel like they go hand in hand. Do you feel like they're different?
Well, I would imagine someone who is high, that 20 to 25, I would imagine those people have a lot of consumer debt. Because I think of a spendthrift, like the problem that on the way, way far left, a 4 of a tightwad is you have more money than you know what to do with, which I know some people hear that and they're like, what a privilege. That's not a problem. But as someone is in the seat of being a financial planner, of seeing people in that, like I actually do see there's a lot of problems with that. And so there, you have maybe balances, whatever, there's problems to that. So I'm like, okay, there's probably problems with the spendthrift side. And to me, it's probably you're taking on more than you can chew. So I'm a tightwad.
You are a tightwad. Why do you think you're a tightwad?
Why do I think I'm a tightwad? Oof. I like control. I find I have a lot of control, or I can satisfy that need for control with money. And so that's more of like, this is why we have lots of spreadsheets for our household, lots of like things for our household when it comes to our money. I don't know if that actually goes into why do I like that? Why do I like that control? Or why, what am I anxious about? To me, it's like, I get anxious about spending money because I'm afraid of the impact it will have on our future financials.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Let's dive in. Why do you think you need to have as much control over finances as you do? Like, where does that come from?
My initial thought that came up was, what would happen if I didn't? Because I'm kind of the one who says, like, this is how much we can spend in a month, and this is how much is in this bucket. And you're just like, great, that makes sense. We do talk about it, and it's nice because I have a partner who gets all the financial things. But it seems like a lot of the setup is because it adheres to my anxiety, my financial anxiety. My question that came up to the question you answered me was like, what happens if I just stopped? I just was like, whoop. And again, it just feels like it'll all unravel. And I don't know what to do with that, or I don't know how else to analyze that. But the unraveling makes me nervous. So I'm going to have to think on that.
Yeah. At least you're aware of it, right? And you've made me through the time we've been together. I'm fully aware of it as well. And like, to go back to what step 1 is, I think it's just that, right? It's having these conversations. Even just an assessment's an assessment, right? Like, an assessment is just like a point in time, how you answer certain questions. And I'm not knocking the study by any means. I'm more so saying, like, things can change. Just because you answer things a certain way doesn't always like mean that's the bucket that you live in the rest of your life. I think you've identified a major step is getting some sort of like finding the tools that allow you to have a conversation like this with your partner. And I think that can go a long ways. Like, we all know the stat about marriages and finances, and like, what's one of the contributing factors of it not working out, right? Like, just find the tools, find the middle ground to have a conversation that's step one.
Right. And, as far as like the Tightwad Spendthrift study, I don't know if I really want to change significantly. Maybe I'd get to a 12 someday, but I'm like, it's just kind of rooted in me. And I'm not looking to change significantly from the outcome of that study. I would like to change my anxiety around money, because one thing you point out to me, Dan, is I don't want to say this in a way that diminishes my feelings, but it's almost like, is it warranted? Am I warranted to have anxiety around money? And you've never said it like that. I'm kind of just like
yeah, geez, I was gonna say, like, I'm not gonna press you like that.
You validate my feelings. That's all true, but you also help pull me out of the anxiety. Because there was one time we were sitting on a couch and it was our couch in the living room. this special couch. No, it was our couch, and I can't remember what the topic was or why we were talking about it. But I was like, Dan, I always think about how much we're saving to retirement and if it's enough. Like, I'm always thinking about that. And your response blew me away. You were like, oh, I never think about that. And I like, literally, that was like, boom. What? You're not worried about that? And I don't even remember what our conversation was afterwards, but to me, that was such a pivotal moment in I'll just say, like, in our relationship, on how different our minds work around money.
Yeah. In the end outcome of that conversation was you like doubling our 401k contribution and me just saying, sure, if that's what you need to feel better about the future, then do it. Right. And it's not like I'm totally like not in the know of what's going on from a savings perspective. I think I've had different experiences in my life where I'm prioritizing like making sure I'm enjoying today, or like funding for our daughter's education, like whatever it may be, or like reinvesting back into our business, right? Like my mindset is maybe more so focused on like now and the next 5 years. And whereas like you're thinking like 30, 40 years out, which we need to do still, right? Like, so it's a balance between the two. But to your point, like to go back to that conversation, like we were on total opposite ends.
We were like a money anxiety that I have is different or non-existent for you.
Yeah.
And so how do we as a couple address the anxiety I have, which is this over the same exact situation? Isn't that insane? Like, I have anxieties around the same exact situation as you, but you have a different feeling from it. We need a therapist here to like, this is why, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot to be said about that. We're looking, we're feeling, we're living the same exact thing, but we're processing it differently. And so I really appreciate, Dan, you just like kind of emphasizing how important it is that we have these conversations, because my feelings are valid and you make sure I feel that way, but so are your feelings. Like, I think we operate our finances tailored towards my anxieties, but you would have the right to be like, no, we're not going to save that much to the 401k. Instead, we're going to go spend it. We're going to go on an international trip instead of putting that in our, like, you have that right.
Well, I think you and I are fortunate to be like pretty close if we were to go back to the assessment on like the scale.
Yeah.
Right. Like there are some partners that are going to be on, someone's going to score a 4, like lowest tightwad score you can get. Someone's going to score a 26 on the Spendthrift. And I think managing the differences there, like, is likely going to be more difficult than maybe you and I experience, where this is also like our field. This is our industry, right? So like we have baseline knowledge and have some of the tools that we feel like well equip us to handle these conversations. So I think like we are fortunate to not be so far on opposite ends.
Yes.
And I do think our numbers have probably come closer as like the longer you and I have been together.
That's a good point.
Right? Like, and it's like, well, correlation doesn't mean equal causation. I remember I wrote that one time in like a philosophy paper in college, and he was just like, this is an amazing sentence. And I was like, thank you, stats.
Okay,
Thank
you did
stats
not
class.
make that up though. That's like been a sentence in the world.
I know, but no one's ever used it in that subject.
Oh, before. Okay. I was like, what are you trying to take? Okay. Anyways. But that's such a good point. Like, I think I was more of a tightwad when we first started dating, and you were more of a spendthrift, or at least higher in the unconflicted consumer category. Like, you were higher there. I was lower, a lower number, more. Why are you laughing?
I'm sorry. That was disrespectful of me, but I'm laughing because of the example that we had this morning where we went to go get coffee after dropping our daughter off at daycare. And I asked you to bring your wallet because my wallet was all the way upstairs. And we brought your wallet to pay for the coffee.
We did.
And full transparency, we have joint accounts. We share money. It doesn't really matter. But I remember like right after we ordered coffee, you just left the register. And I was like, you got to pay for that. Like, that's why we brought your wallet. You got to pay for it. And the lady behind us laughed. So why I'm telling that story is because I feel like I was more of a spendthrift at the beginning of our relationship because I was trying to woo you. Like, I was trying to pay for everything.
Yep.
So you only saw one side of it.
Okay.
But that was right. Like, when you're first date, you don't like you don't see internally how I'm feeling or where it comes from.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was an investment that I think paid off.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. Yeah. So. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really encourage listeners for you to take this assessment. I think this was a really good conversation. And I think it's just really important to have tools like this that allow you to understand where maybe some money philosophies, experiences come from, and giving you a platform to have that conversation with your partner.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Dan.
Thanks, Natalie.
Bye-bye.
Hey, if you've enjoyed this episode and are looking for personalized financial guidance, schedule a free complimentary consultation using the link in the description below. Natalie and Dan Slagle are the founding partners of Fuse Financial Planning, a registered investment advisor. The information provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered investment advice or a recommendation to buy or sell any securities. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Advisory services are offered to clients or prospective clients where Fuse Financial Planning and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. For more information, including our disclosures, please visit our website at www.fusefinancial.com.